Emergency workers in Taiwan are looking for dozens of people who are still missing after the island was hit by its strongest earthquake of this century.
Teacher said, go under the table, go under the table.
Two massive earthquakes have just hit Taiwan's coast, destroying the city's landscape and causing a huge number of casualties. Emergency teams are presently on the ground helping victims and assessing the damage, but just when people think the worst is over, the government has just warned about another disaster that's about to happen. What's the update on these tragedies? Join us as we reveal how strong earthquakes shake Taiwan, damaging buildings and causing a tsunami. The horrifying tremors. A new earthquake of about 7.4 magnitude has just been recorded in the great city of Taiwan. Adding to the tension, a 6.5 magnitude aftershock followed just 12 minutes later, sparking fear and curiosity about the cause and safety of the people. There were also some videos where some buildings were shown to have collapsed on Taiwan's east coast due to the effects of the earthquakes. Amidst all these as well, in Japan, a tsunami warning has been passed across, stirring up more fear amongst the citizens and other people watching all around the world. This is Taiwan's biggest earthquake ever recorded in the last 25 years. This one killed about 9 people and injured more than 900 people. Also, 50 workers traveling in minibuses to a hotel in a national park were declared missing. In a place called Hualien, near where the big earthquake hit, some buildings leaned dangerously after the 7.2 magnitude quake. The quake also caused big landslides. It happened early in the morning, and so when it got dark, some folks had to sleep outside in tents because their homes were unsafe. Many emergency workers were busy trying to fix damaged buildings and tear down ones that couldn't be saved, so they wouldn't cause more harm to people. Deputy Acting Chief Li Lung Sheng from the Hualien Fire Department explained that a building called Uranus got hit hard. It used to have 9 floors above ground, but now the first and second floors are buried underground. The mayor of Hualien, Xu Chenwei, ordered everyone from the shaky buildings to be moved out. Alongside, they were starting to knock down 4 buildings that were too damaged to be fixed. Rescuers were seen in videos helping trap people out of windows using ladders. The tremors were so strong in Taipei that the subway briefly closed, but most lines started running again. Firefighters evacuated around 70 people stuck in tunnels near Hualien City, including 2 Germans, but they lost contact with the 50 workers heading to a hotel in Taroko Gorge National Park. Rescuers are searching for them. Also, about 80 people were stuck in a mining area, though it's not clear if they were inside a mine. On a highway through the mountains, big rocks from a landslide blocked the road, hence putting a sudden stop to the use of that road until something is done about it. The Taichung City government's fire bureau rescued a man in his 50s who was unconscious in a truck. Of the 9 people confirmed so far, 3 were hikers who were killed in rock slides in Taroko National Park, which is in Hualien County. Authorities said the 3 were part of a group of 7 on an early morning hike through the hills that surround the city. They were crushed to death by boulders loosened by the earthquake. Separately, the drivers of a truck and a car died when their vehicles were hit by tumbling boulders, while another man died at a mine. A woman who runs a bed and breakfast in Hualien said she had to work quickly to calm her guests. The woman, identified as Chan, expressed that this was the biggest earthquake she had ever experienced. The government reported 946 people injured, and President-elect Lai Ching-te, speaking outside one of the collapsed buildings in Hualien, stated that the most important thing to do at that time was to rescue people who needed help before focusing on buildings and damaged properties. He also mentioned that the rail link to the area was expected to reopen on Thursday. The White House offered assistance, stating that the U.S. was ready to help in any way needed. Taiwan's Air Force mentioned that 6 F-16 fighter jets were slightly damaged at a major base in the city due to the earthquake, but they should be back in service soon. In Japan, the earthquake was reported to have a magnitude of 7.7 by the weather agency. Some small tsunami waves reached parts of Okinawa, but the tsunami warning was later changed to an advisory. In the Philippines, seismology officials warned people living along the coast in several provinces to move to higher ground as a precaution. Also, Chinese state media mentioned that the earthquake was felt in Fujian province. A witness told Reuters that it was also felt in Shanghai, which is a major commercial hub. Most of the power has been restored following the quake. According to Taipower, the electricity utility in the island's 2 nuclear power stations weren't affected. More than 91,000 households were without electricity, according to Taiwan's Central Emergency Command Center. According to the municipal government, hospitals around Taipei City are operating normally despite being damaged by the earthquake. Taiwan's high-speed rail operator reported no damage or injuries on its trains, but services would be delayed as inspections were carried out. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, a major chip supplier to companies like Apple and Nvidia, evacuated some plants but said safety systems were working fine. Nvidia assured there would be no disruptions in supply due to the quake. TSMC confirmed its workers were safe and returned to work shortly after the quake. The affected facilities were expected to resume production during the night. While TSMC's shares dropped by 1.3%, the benchmark index mostly ignored the quake's impact, closing down by 0.6%. Taiwan's earthquake preparedness is among the most advanced in the world, and that's the reason why they are always able to bounce back fast after a tremor. How true could this be? Surviving the deadliest earthquakes. According to reports, the earthquake, measuring magnitude 7.2, has caused damage to several buildings in Hualien, but it has resulted in only minor damage in Taipei. Although it is strongly felt there, witnesses observed that the quake struck during the morning rush hour, yet it only slightly disrupted the regular commute. Soon after, parents were seen walking their children to school again, and workers resumed driving to offices. Seismologist and Missouri University of Science and Technology professor Stephen Gao commented and clearly stated that Taiwan's earthquake preparedness is among the most advanced in the world. He highlighted the implementation of strict building codes, a top-notch seismological network, and widespread public education campaigns on earthquake safety. The government, Gao noted, consistently updates the level of quake resistance required for both new and existing buildings. Moreover, subsidies are offered to residents willing to assess the quake resistance of their buildings. Referring to a 2016 earthquake in Taiwan, where a 17-story apartment building collapsed, resulting in numerous casualties, Gao mentioned that 5 individuals involved in its construction were found guilty of negligence and received prison sentences. Taiwan is also actively promoting earthquake drills in schools and workplaces, and using public media and cell phones to regularly disseminate notices regarding earthquake safety. Gao emphasized that these measures have significantly boosted Taiwan's resilience to earthquakes, thus reducing the potential for catastrophic damage and loss of life. Considering Taiwan's location on a tectonic boundary between the Eurasian Plate and the Philippine Sea Plate, the government has already established emergency measures for natural disasters, given the frequent earthquakes in the region. Consequently, the response to this morning's earthquake was prompt. The Central Weather Administration of Taiwan warned that the island could still experience aftershocks as high as magnitude 7 over the next 3 days. Currently, over 87,000 homes on the island are without power. The military is collaborating with first responders to access the worst affected areas. Local authorities confirmed that 4 buildings had partially collapsed. Residents in 3 buildings were declared safe, while rescue efforts continued at the Uranus building in Hualien, which remains severely tilted following the ground floor collapse. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, a key player in chip making, initially evacuated some factories in Hsinchu in southern Taiwan. However, they later announced that staff were returning to work. TSMC supplies semiconductors to major tech companies like Apple and Nvidia. Due to the 1999 earthquake, the government made new laws like the Disaster Prevention and Protection Act and set up 2 national centers to manage and train for earthquakes. The quake was the most significant since 1999, ranking as upper 6 inches in intensity, according to Taiwan weather officials, the second highest level on a scale of 1 to 7. Such quakes can collapse walls and require people to crawl for movement. The devastating Chi-Chi earthquake. According to the USGS, Taiwan and the surrounding areas have had around 2,000 earthquakes since 1980 that measured 4.0 or more on the scale. They've had over 100 earthquakes above 5.5 in magnitude. The worst quake happened on September 21, 1999, with a magnitude of 7.7. It caused about 2,400 deaths, injured around 100,000 people and destroyed lots of buildings. Daniel Aldrich, a professor at Northeastern University, says that the earthquake was a big wake-up call. It made the government realize they needed to make changes to how they handle emergencies and reduce disasters. Aldrich mentioned that after the 1999 earthquake, people criticized the government's slow response. It took hours for medical teams to arrive, and rescuers weren't trained well. Also, different government departments didn't work together smoothly. The Chichi earthquake, also known as the Gigi earthquake, or the Great Earthquake of September 21st, was a powerful earthquake that hit Gigi, Nantou County, Taiwan on September 21st, 1999. It measured 7.3 on the magnitude level scale. The quake caused significant devastation, resulting in 2,415 fatalities, 11,305 injuries, 29 people declared missing, 51,711 buildings were destroyed, and 53,768 sustained severe damage, resulting in a total estimated damage of 300 billion new Taiwan dollars worth of damage. It stands as the second deadliest earthquake in Taiwan's history, following the 1935 Shinjuku Taichu earthquake. Rescue teams from around the world, along with local relief workers and the Taiwanese military, joined efforts to rescue survivors, clear rubble, restore essential services, and provide aid to over 100,000 people left homeless by the quake. The disaster, termed the quake of the century by local media, had a profound impact on the island's economy and the mindset of its people. Some commentators attributed dissatisfaction with the government's response to the earthquake as a factor in the defeat of the ruling Kuomintang party in the 2000 presidential election. Its epicenter was located at 23.77 degrees north latitude and 120.98 degrees east longitude, about 9.2 kilometers southwest of Sun Moon Lake, near Gigi Town in Nantou County. The tremor measured 7.7 on the moment magnitude scale and 7.3 on the Richter scale, with a focal depth of 8.0 kilometers. Following the main tremor, the Central Weather Bureau recorded a total of 12,911 aftershocks in the month afterward. The earthquake's total energy release was estimated at 210 petajoules, approximately equal to the yield of the Tsar Bomba. Unlike most earthquakes in Taiwan, which occur off the eastern coast and cause little damage, this earthquake happened in an unusual location. One significant aftershock on September 26th measured 6.8 on the Richter scale, causing already weakened buildings to collapse and resulting in 3 more fatalities. Power was disrupted across much of the island due to damage to power and transmission stations, as well as the automatic shutdown of Taiwan's 3 nuclear power plants, which resumed operation 2 days later. Taipower, the national electricity provider, reported that power had been restored to 59% of the country within a day after the quake. Furthermore, 102 major bridges were severely damaged, requiring many to be demolished. The Central Cross Island Highway, the primary route across the mountains in central Taiwan, suffered significant damage and, as of 2018, remains partially closed due to subsequent storm damage and the high cost of restoration. A total of 132 landslides occurred during the quake and its aftershocks, with some resulting in casualties as rockfalls crushed houses. Moreover, 870 schools were damaged, with 125 of them severely affected, leading to closures lasting several months or, in some cases, permanently. In Nantou County, towns like Puli suffered severe damage, with 846 fatalities, 153 people reported missing, and 1,889 injuries. Due to the remote location of many affected areas, it took some time for aid from the central government to reach survivors. Approximately 80% of houses in Zhongliao were severely damaged or destroyed. In Taichung County, at least 1,074 people lost their lives, with 3,648 injuries reported. Around 3,211 houses were destroyed in the county. The port of Taichung, a significant commercial harbor, sustained severe damage and had to close temporarily. In Taipei City, despite being far from the quake's epicenter, buildings were shaken. Only one building, the 12-story Tongxing building, collapsed due to the tremor, resulting in the deaths of 87 people. Later investigations revealed that the building was poorly constructed, with its structural pillars and beams filled with plastic bottles and newspaper instead of brick and concrete. Survivors blame both the construction company responsible for the building and the local government for not enforcing building codes and safety standards properly. As a result, 5 individuals were indicted following the disaster. After the earthquake, the Taiwan Stock Exchange stayed closed for 5 days. Taiwan was a big maker of computer memory chips at the time, and when the quake shut down Hsinchu Science Park and other factories for 6 days, the prices of computer memory tripled on world markets. This was a big deal because Taiwan was already trying to recover from the 1997 Asian financial crisis. People estimated that the total cost of the earthquake would be about 10% of Taiwan's whole economy in 1999. People got upset about how many buildings collapsed and blamed bad construction for it. They said the rules for building safety weren't followed, and construction companies were also criticized. The authorities arrested builders and architects of buildings that fell, froze their money, and took away their travel documents. One problem pointed out after the quake was something called soft stories in tall buildings. These were high, open ground floors in tall buildings that didn't have much support. So in a quake, the ground floor could collapse first, making the other floors collapse like pancakes. Buildings in Taiwan taller than 50 meters had to go through a special review process to make sure they were safe. None of these buildings that went through the review process collapsed, but several buildings just under 50 meters tall did collapse. Right after the earthquake, the government held an emergency meeting to figure out how to deal with the aftermath. The same day, the ROC military sprang into action. Lots of conscripted soldiers went to the areas most affected to help hand out emergency supplies, clear roads, and rescue people stuck in collapsed buildings. Helicopters were used to take injured people from the mountains to hospitals and bring food to places that couldn't be reached by road. The military also took charge of recovering bodies from buildings that were damaged. One of the last people to be saved was a 6-year-old boy. He was found alive under the rubble of his house in Taichung County by a team of search and rescue workers from South Korea and Japan, nearly 88 hours after the quake. Even later, almost 130 hours after the earthquake, 2 brothers were found alive in the ruins of the Tungxing building in Taipei. Rescuers were shocked to see them alive. The brothers survived by drinking water from fire hoses, eating rotten fruit, and drinking their urine. On September 25th, President Lee Teng-hui declared a state of emergency in the affected areas. This gave local authorities the power to bypass usual rules and restrictions to help people in places most in need. It was the first time emergency powers had been used since 1989. Many charities, companies, and individuals pitched in to help with relief efforts in later rebuilding. People donated a total of 33.9 billion new Taiwan dollars directly to the government-run disaster fund. Organizations like the Presbyterian Church of Taiwan, Rotary International, and many others also contributed to helping survivors in rebuilding. Even after President Chen Shui-bian took office in March 2000, reconstruction efforts continued. President Chen said in his first speech that the country couldn't wait to start rebuilding after the earthquake. One big job was redrawing land boundaries in areas where the land changed a lot because of the quake. The whole island stretched about 1.5 meters longer from north to south and got a bit squished from east to west. To solve land issues, some landowners were offered new government land not near fault lines. The earthquake, known simply as 9/21, has left a lasting impact on Taiwan. People were unhappy with how the government handled the disaster, and this was reflected in a decrease in support for Vice President Li Qiang during the 2000 presidential election. In Wufeng, a town in southern Taichung County, the damage was severe. Guangfu Junior High School, located right on the fault line, was badly hit. Today, it's the site of the National Museum of Natural Sciences 921 Earthquake Museum. In Jushan Township, Nantou County, a fault from the earthquake was discovered by a professor from National Taiwan University in 2002. To preserve the surface rupture, the Chelungpu Fault Preservation Park was opened to the public in 2013. The earthquake caused a permanent shift in Shigang District, damaging the Shigang Dam and requiring roads and trails to be fixed with inclines. Some locals jokingly call this new sloping terrain Singapore. The 10th anniversary of the earthquake in 2009 was marked by events in affected areas, including Taipei, Dongxi, Wufeng, Puli, Jiji, and Zhongxing New Village, to honor the victims, rescuers, and reconstruction efforts. The Taiwan Chalungpu Fault Drilling Project, led by Taiwanese scholars and international collaborators, investigated the Chalungpu Fault. This led to significant discoveries about the earthquake's causes, including the first measurement of an earthquake slip zone. The project also found that underground water movement contributed to the quake, leading to the definition of isotropic events, which has implications for fracking operations. Similar to Taiwan, Japan also has a history of earthquakes and tsunamis that caused a lot of damage. They lost lives and properties, which still echoes in the present day. Also, they learned from their past to make their present days better. Japan's Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. On March 11, 2011, Japan was hit by a huge 9.0 magnitude earthquake, the strongest ever recorded in the country. It caused a tsunami as tall as 30 meters, flooding up to 5 kilometers inland. This led to many extensive damage to the environment and destruction of buildings and roads. The disaster also harmed several nuclear power plants, raising fears of radiation leaks. Over 13,000 people have been confirmed dead, and around 14,600 are still missing. This makes it Japan's worst disaster since the 1923 earthquake. The estimated cost of the damage is around $309 billion, making it the most expensive disaster in the world. It was the strongest earthquake ever recorded in Japan and one of the most powerful worldwide since 1900. The earthquake triggered massive tsunami waves that reached heights of up to 40.5 meters in some areas and traveled at incredibly fast speeds of 700 kilometers per hour. People in Sendai, one of the hardest hit areas, had very little time to evacuate with just 8 to 10 minutes of warning. The combination of the tsunami and freezing temperatures made rescue efforts extremely difficult. Official reports stated nearly 20,000 deaths, thousands injured, and thousands more missing. Additionally, the tsunami caused the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, leading to meltdowns in 3 reactors, the release of radioactive water, and the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of residents. Just 1 minute before the earthquake struck Tokyo, Japan's earthquake early warning system, equipped with over 1,000 seismometers across the country, sent out alerts to millions, forewarning of strong shaking. This timely warning, issued by the Japan Meteorological Agency, is believed to have saved many lives. The public alert was issued about 8 seconds after the first seismic waves were detected, approximately 31 seconds after the earthquake began. However, in some areas like Kanto, Koshinetsu, and northern Tohoku, the estimated intensities were lower than the actual ones, and the warnings did not reach the populace. The JMA cited reasons for this discrepancy, including limitations in the magnitude scale and incomplete consideration of the earthquake's size and initial amplitude. Additionally, during aftershocks and subsequent earthquakes, significant differences were observed between estimated and actual intensities. The JMA attributed these discrepancies to the system's difficulty in distinguishing between simultaneous earthquakes and reduced data from reporting seismometers due to power outages and connection issues. Following these observations, adjustments were made to the system's software to address these challenges. After the devastating earthquake and tsunami in Japan, numerous challenges emerged for the country. The Fukushima Daiichi power plant remained a major concern, and there was a significant humanitarian crisis with many displaced and homeless individuals. Additionally, the management of the immense amount of debris generated by the disaster posed a pressing challenge for the Japanese government. The volume of debris was staggering, estimated to range between 80 and 200 million tons, akin to the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, which incurred a cleanup cost exceeding $3.2 billion. The scarcity of available land further compounded the issue, potentially inflating the costs associated with post-disaster waste management. Moreover, several environmental issues demanded attention during the recovery phase, which were inland penetration of seawater that caused land salinity, impacting agricultural productivity, and the quality of shallow groundwater used for drinking or irrigation, and coastal waterways that were fully silted by the tsunami, necessitating drainage efforts to restore their functionality. Damage to urban water supply and sewage networks risked cross-contamination, posing health threats to the population. Coastal habitats and ecosystems faced destruction, with significant implications for local livelihoods and reconstruction efforts, if not mindful of environmental considerations, could leave a substantial ecological footprint, particularly concerning waste disposal and cleanup operations. Following the disaster, the United Nations Environment Program extended condolences to Japan's Prime Minister and Environment Minister and offered its assistance and expertise. Drawing from its extensive experience in managing environmental impacts post-disaster, UNEP stood prepared to aid the Japanese government and people upon request. The International Atomic Energy Agency takes the lead in coordinating international help during nuclear accidents and radiological emergencies. UNEP works closely with the IAEA's Incident and Emergency Center through the UN Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation Secretariat. UNEP is ready to assist with requests in such situations. When the recent tsunami warnings came, many people got scared because they remembered past disasters like the big earthquake and tsunami in Japan in 2011. They were worried that something similar might happen again. Huge waves causing a lot of damage and hurting people. People were really worried about their own safety and the safety of their families. They started getting ready to leave their homes in case they had to. But then, when the warnings were canceled and turned into advisories, people started feeling better. The experts and the government said the danger wasn't as high anymore. This made people feel less afraid. Changing from a warning, which means something bad might happen soon, to an advisory, which means to be careful but there's not an immediate danger, made things feel more normal. People could go back to their usual routines, feeling a bit safer, knowing that the worst danger had passed. They still had to be careful, but at least they didn't have to worry as much. Thank you for watching this video. While you are still here, click the video on your screen to see more mind-blowing videos like this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.